IVM.
Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach podcast. I am Ashdin, Doctor, your habit coach, and today for the second time we have our guest Tanvi Lad. Now, Tanvi is a badminton player who plays professionally for India. And we had a fantastic episode on Tuesday that was all about understanding the athlete's mindset, understanding where do habits fit in, and what are the three big learnings we could take from what she spoke about in her life. She's also a fellow podcaster, and her podcast is launching in mid-October on IVM. It's called the Millennial Athlete. So, welcome Tanvi for a second time to the Habit Coach podcast.
Thank you, Ashdin, for having me on the show. Extremely excited. Like I said in our first episode as well, I was really looking forward to doing this episode with you, and also very excited about the launch of our podcast, The Millennial Athlete. Me and my teammate Shlok Ramchandran have started a new podcast which is about all things a millennial athlete goes through, and super kicked that we're doing this with IVM. So guys, do tune in on the 19th of October. We launch on the 19th, and hope to inspire you all.
Woohoo! I love the concept of a millennial athlete. It's all the baggage that us as millennials have to go through, plus athlete and everything. Beautiful. And I was
Tell me about
Tanvi
the stereotypes that you're
trying to break.
Yes.
Well, you can like I was teasing Tanvi. I was saying like millennial athletes. So that means that you guys are on Instagram. So like what athletes are what athletic activities are you all doing on Instagram? Maybe like your thumb is the most used muscle in your body, and ha 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 ha. And then she was like, that is what we're trying to break. We're trying to break these stereotypes.
No, we are on Instagram a lot, but we're very often checking out training videos or spying on what our opponents are doing in different parts of the country. So we have our priorities even on social media.
I love it. No, listen, I'm a social media addict. And multiple times on the podcast, I've admitted to that, because everybody who comes and says, habit coach, what are your bad habits? Right? So my bad habit is only like phone addiction. So I keep saying that, out of all the habits that I've spoken about, all 300 episodes, the phone addiction ones are the only ones that I haven't been able to do successfully. Everything else I have done personally, and hence I'm sharing it with people. But the phone addiction ones, oh God, those are the hardest for sure.
Absolutely.
So, Tanvi, today's episode is about rock bottoms, right? And as you know, on the Habit Coach podcast, we're trying to normalize rock bottom, right? Because all of us go through it at some point in our life. It is either in our relationships or professional careers or, whatever goals that we set for ourselves. We all hit rock bottom from time to time, and we need to learn how to get out of it. If we get stuck there, that is when the problem starts. And on the Habit Coach podcast, we're trying to celebrate our rock bottom moments, because that is the time when your character gets built, a future new you gets built. So, Tanvi, as an athlete, I'm sure there are extremely painful rock bottom moments, right? Like, I think being an athlete and having those kind of moments is very interrelated.
Absolutely. I think... So I would like to start this conversation with, a small throwback to our season 1 of the Millennial Athlete, where we were interviewing Commonwealth gold medalist Parupalli Kashyap. He's a senior player. We've always looked up to him and gone to him for advice, and he's been kind enough to help us through our tough times. And he mentioned, that. We athletes are made out to be superhumans. People look at us and feel you guys, are made of another metal. But at the end of the day, we need to realize that athletes are also humans. We have emotions. We go through the same ups and downs that people go through in day-to-day life. And sometimes it hits us even harder. Because there is a financial angle to it. If you're dropped out of if it's an injury or you've been excluded from a team selection, it may have repercussions on your contracts, on your sponsors, on your the amount of money you're earning. It hits you mentally because you have to sit out when you see people train for a particular event and you're not part of that training session, it hits you mentally. So it's, there's a lot that goes into being an athlete. We go through a lot of these highs and lows of emotions, and hitting rock bottom is something that happens time and again. It comes in the form
Right.
of injury. It
Mm-hmm.
could be, at the national center, in literally, I've seen at least 6 or 7 players undergo ACL reconstructions, which kicks them out for almost a year, and then
Mm-hmm.
rankings plummet. You have to start from scratch, which is something similar. Happened in my case. I was back in 2016. Before this was before the Rio Olympics. I was
Okay.
playing Carolina Marin, who went on to win the gold medal at Rio, and this was a couple of months before the Olympics, and I served match point against her. So I was in great form, the third ranked women's singles shuttler after Saina and Sindhu, and really looking forward to a bright 2 years ahead.
Wow.
And that's when I moved to England to play the European circuit and also finish my masters at Loughborough. Um, and everything starts off as per plan. The first two,
Hmm.
I win my first tournament, and in the next 2 months, the next thing I know is that I've torn my patella tendon. I had to come back, get the surgery done, and I was off the circuit for 9 months. My ranking dropped 210 places. Um,
From number 3 down to 210.
no, I was the third ranked. So I was number one in India. After
Okay.
Saina and Sindhu, I was the highest
Hmm.
ranked
Hmm.
shuttler and even world ranking wise, I was ranked 50. So I was the third behind the both of them, world ranking wise.
Correct. Right.
And yeah, I dropped 200 places. I was nowhere, not in the reckoning for any event, any selection. It was starting from scratch.
My God.
Um, so yeah, here I am, second innings. The logical step would probably have been use your degree and do something, get on to other things in life. But
What was the moment of what did you feel at that moment when you realized that you had a torn ACL?
um, so it was, I think, a multitude of emotions. On the one hand, you had, there was a perspective that, I think it's time to hang up your boots. You've achieved what you've achieved. You've reached where you've reached. And maybe you should do other things in life now. That was one
Hmm.
very strong voice that was inside me. It was being voiced by people around me, and it made logical sense. Um, but um, I had this, I had this inner voice inside me. I don't know. It was like a never say die kind of thing where,
Hmm.
I didn't want to quit the sport on this note. A sport
Okay.
that has given me so much. It has shaped me into the person I am today. I cannot leave. I cannot quit on this sad note.
Hmm.
I'm a victim of circumstances and I hang up my boots. Um, I will, quit when I know that I couldn't have achieved anything more, and I still feel that I have a lot of the sport left in me. So I fought
Right.
back. I went through the whole rehab process, and gradually started rebuilding my rankings. And
Hmm.
it was the Olympic qualification year, so every event that you enter is extremely competitive. You have a world top 20 player playing, a smaller tournament, which usually would have been a lot easier to go probably and win.
Hmm.
And every round here becomes tough. So it was a step by step process, and it's still on. I'm yet not back to where I was pre surgery, but I'm getting
Hmm.
there, and I have my eyes set on a couple of world events coming up in the next 2 years. So fingers crossed, hope to get there.
So when you actually went through this process, right? Operation done. Correct? You're sitting back and you're taking stock of everything. What are the kinds of emotions at that point of time in your life?
So there's a lot of acceptance. I think, we try to, especially as millennial athletes, we
Hmm.
want to control everything. We feel
Hmm.
that if we've done X, Y, Z, chances are that we're going to achieve what we want to achieve. But life usually has other plans, and you need to
Hmm.
accept that whatever pans out
Hmm.
is for the best. So that there's a lot of acceptance and there's a lot of letting go. That somewhere that switch happens internally, and you realize that what is meant to be will eventually pan out and will be for the best.
Hmm.
So, though we do want to control everything that, and we want to plug every loophole and think that we have everything under control, actually, nothing is in our control. And we
Correct.
need to, the sooner we accept that, I think it's a lot easier on us as athletes, even as individuals. I think the sooner we accept that we cannot control everything and we cannot control the people we're dealing with or our
Yeah.
circumstances, things just flow the way they should flow.
I love it. You know, acceptance as a step to this instead of just thinking about why me, why me, why me. And I know a lot of people get stuck in the why me stage when you get into a situation like this because it gets so easy to say, I did everything right, I did everything I could have done. Da, 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 da. Why me? Oh God, and it goes down into that route. Did you also have a moment of why me, followed by acceptance?
Yeah, I think to be frank, I did initially your self-talk or that inner voice inside you feel sorry for yourself. That's the easy way out, right? Everyone
Correct.
feels why me? Why
Yeah.
did I have to get injured at this point? Or as Kashyap put it, he was in absolute prime form in the run up to um, the London Olympics, and then an injury or some niggle that comes up. But
Hmm.
so you do go through that phase of playing victim,
Hmm.
but the sooner you accept it, and that's where I think a lot of introspection comes in. You start asking the right questions. You start, breaking down what, instead of what could have been, you probably look for answers, and you try to rework whatever you had whatever was you had worked and didn't go as per plan. You reevaluate, you rework, and you look for solutions. That's probably the best way to move forward and to get yourself out of that dark space, because sometimes, I mean, we've seen athletes go down a mental spiral, and
Mm-hmm.
it can get quite dark, and then it takes them a lot of effort and time to actually come out of it. Some of them don't, and it becomes a real
Correct.
struggle. um,
Absolutely.
so mental health, I think, as an athlete, especially in an individual sport, is so important. You need to have that support system around you all the time, so that you stop bottling up emotions and thoughts, and you actually voice them and you look for solutions all the time. That's the way to go.
Superb. I'm gonna just break this down, guys. There's so much to unpack from what Tanvi said in passing, and let's just break it down into a couple of steps. The first step is understanding that why me is going to happen. All right. Accept that victimhood. If you're passing through that right now while listening to this podcast, if you're at your rock bottom and you're thinking about why me, say, okay, even the best go through that phase. But they very quickly move away from that to a stage of acceptance, saying that, yes, it happened. It's done. There's nothing that I could have done. There's nothing more. It has happened. Okay, superb. So get to that stage of acceptance. Once you get to that stage of acceptance, what Tanvi said after that was so critical. She said that you need a support system around you, especially if you're on your own, right? Now, she used the example of a single sport athlete, but all of us are technically single in some format or the other in our lives, but we can create that team around us as well. So, looking for your support system is very, very crucial when you're getting out of this rock bottom phase. So, understanding this as a process, looking out for people who you can help, who you can learn from, who are there to support you, who are not gonna, rubbish the whole idea of what you're trying to do, but actually, maybe egg you on sometimes. And I'm sure, Tanvi, you must have had people who, tried motivating you in different manners, right? Some may be very hard on you, some may be very soft on you during this phase. Is there any particular kind that worked, and is there any particular kind that didn't?
Um, like you said, Ashton, I think the key factor here is finding motivation again.
Right.
Because when you're in that rock bottom space and all you
Hmm.
can think of is why me, and it's
Hmm.
the end of the world kind of a situation. um, Finding that motivation again, whether it's intrinsic,
Hmm.
whether you have to do something different. You have to try and you have to be open to trying and experimenting, and finding that motivation again. Or it can be extrinsic, so it could be a coach or a mentor who's your sounding board, and you actually pour out your emotions. He gives you a third, a detached perspective, and
Hmm.
you rework things. And you have to keep trying. That is the important thing. It's very very easy to throw in the towel and say, okay, I'm done, I quit.
Yeah.
But to actually stick, because that's where your character is actually, it comes to light. Because if you're going to throw in the towel, then you're going to have these situations coming up every now and then. So you have to literally go through that phase, stick it out, keep
Hmm.
trying, keep experimenting, whether it's something in the gym, whether it's a new diet, whether it's a new trainer, whether it's a change in technique. You may have been smashing a particular way for 10 years, but who knows, maybe you make a slight tweak, you hold your
Hmm.
racket grip slightly higher, and you start suddenly, or you're hitting different angles, and you're
Hmm.
winning matches, you're beating players who
Hmm.
you didn't beat before. So it's
Hmm.
these little things, it's these subtle changes. It gives you this little edge that you're looking for, and things turn around, and you never know when things are going to turn around. So you have to live with that
Superb.
hope.
Acha, listen,
Yeah.
you are throwing in too many golden nuggets into one sentence, okay? Like Tanvi, like I'm like sweating here trying to unpack everything. Okay. So, Tanvi started off by saying you have to find that motivation to get out. Because many people get stuck there because they can't find that motivation. And she broke it down into intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, which is your internal motivation. So it can either be a poster that you have on your wall, or it is that one thing that you really, really want to achieve, or something that you're going after, or it can be something that people are pushing you towards as well, correct, giving you that external motivation. So understanding motivation is one way of coming out of this, because it's very interesting. When you're at rock bottom, hopelessness sets in, and when hopelessness sets in, you can't picture a better future for yourself, which is why getting that motivation in, visualizing it, helps you put your mind in a frame that says that the future can be better than what it is right now. And that is what we're after when we talk about the motivation. So it's that little push that starts. Then she said something very important. She said you never know when the next leap might suddenly take place, so you have to put in the work. So you start putting in the work, you start getting into practice, you start doing the things that you know you're supposed to be doing. Like we had a psychologist on the podcast just last week, and she said, just do your daily routine, groom yourself. Even if you're at this rock bottom, just groom yourself. Start from there, you know, and then start moving. And then she said something important. It's that small change that might give you that boost. So look for those small changes also in your life. Don't look for only the big dramatic stuff, but like she said, the way that I hold my racket by a few millimeters might suddenly be the change that I've been looking for. And very often, it's that rock bottom that allows us that free time to actually analyze what are those small little tweaks that we can do. It makes us rethink who we are, rethink for you your game and the way that you would approach it, and hence things start changing.
Rise from the ashes, Ashton.
Rise from the ashes, phoenix.
Phoenix, yes, that's the visual that I'm painting.
Nah? Yeah. And we have to figure out what would a phoenix sound like? What do you think a phoenix sounds like?
Probably like this very dramatic actually. Like
Hmm.
the I can hear the wind, and this phoenix is like rising from the ashes.
But what is it called? Like a turkey goes gobble gobble, a chicken goes puck puck. What do you think a phoenix says?
No idea.
Does it go like Kah! Or like, all right, we've completely sabotaged the podcast with this one. I was waiting for you to say gobble gobble, but phoenix goes gobble gobble.
Oh, really?
Okay. Yes. I'm joking. All right, but it's yeah, all right, and have a sense of humor as well as you're going up from rock bottom. Correct.
Yes,
One
absolutely.
more thing to
Laugh,
learn from
laugh,
this:
smile. It
laugh.
doesn't cost you anything.
Acha, you're talking about millennial athletes. Chalo, one more thing. Do you think millennials are getting too serious?
Mm, yes and no. So
Hmm.
sometimes I think the stereotype goes that millennials just want to have fun. They're on their phones too
Okay.
much. They're
Hmm.
disconnected from people. You may be sitting at a dining table and engrossed in your phone, so you're always disconnected. And they always want to have fun. That's
Hmm.
something that's something we've noticed. Even this whole concept of professional leagues coming up, whether it's the IPL, whether it's the PBL, the Premier Badminton League, and you have
Hmm.
this the after parties, and you have all this fun happening, or you have players doing these celebratory dances after winning a team tie. So there's a lot
Hmm.
of this stereotype that players and millennial athletes today, especially, they want to have a lot of fun, they want to make money, they want to make merry, and then live
Hmm.
life to the fullest. But on the other hand, like I mentioned, we sometimes get consumed with this rat race. There's this sense of immediacy or urgency that we have to achieve, and time is limited, and opportunities are limited. And if someone else is bagging this contract with an equipment sponsor, why am I not? Why don't I have any contracts in my bag? So it's this constant comparison. There's constant, and social media isn't helping because
Hmm.
you're constantly exposed. You know what's happening in the sporting world and around you, so you keep comparing, you keep feeling this insecurity or this inadequacy within you. Um, so you sometimes do become a little too serious because you're caught up with this rat race all the time.
But rat race has always been there. Do you think that millennials are now too woke? Is there
uh,
such a thing as being too woke?
Probably yes. I think it's just because we're just exposed to so much more now.
Right.
Yeah, and I would blame social media for that. We are on
Hmm.
Instagram a way more, like way more than we probably should be.
Hmm.
There was a certain sense. If when I look at my seniors, like ex players, there was a certain sense of contentment with what we've achieved, or even a sense of gratitude towards what the sport has given us, the life the sport has given us. But
Hmm.
we millennials sometimes belittle the things that the sport has given us because we always want more. We're never
Hmm.
really satisfied or gracious enough for what we've achieved, and you know,
It's a sense of entitlement that comes in,
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
right? And how do you deal with that entitlement yourself?
So I think I'm guilty of being a millennial today.
Okay.
Um, like you said, you growing up, you've been made out to be this larger than life. She's the rising star. She's the next big thing on the block. So you do carry yourself with a certain sense of or an inflated sense of self-worth.
Correct.
And you do expect to be treated specially, and that just comes with the whole build up around you.
Hmm.
But I think I am a victim of that sometimes. I accept it, but um,
And then
I
how
think
does
your
that
family.
inflated sense of self play along with, for example, losing a match? Like, how do you then balance those two out?
So I think that's where your family, comes in, the value or the relationships that you have with family and friends, your close inner
Hmm.
circle. I think it's extremely important. At least in my case, I was lucky that my parents and my coaches always kept me grounded. They never
Right.
let me really, if I wasn't ever on cloud nine after winning a title, or I wasn't in the depths, or if I was going through a rough phase, they were always there to balance out my emotions, to give me a reality check from time to time. And I think the relationships that you have with your inner circle matter. uh, and they should probably have take it, upon themselves as a responsibility that we need to, you know, she is special, but she needs to be looked after specially as well.
I think this is such an important lesson for people who have loved ones who are going through a rock bottom. Correct? Especially right now when people are losing jobs, which is fairly similar, in feeling, like there's an intense sense of loss that you suddenly have.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How can a family member be part of that? How do you be supportive? Is it it's okay, beta, you'll get them next time? Is it you're so good, don't worry? Is it tomorrow I'll wake up with you and we'll train harder? Is it I'll add two more andas to your dabba? What is it that you expect as a way of somebody helping you up? I know you're vegetarian. I don't know why the andas came. Huh.
Um, so I think there is a certain sense of empathy that I would expect
Okay.
from a family member. I would want them to sympathize with me, hear me out. I would be shedding a lot of tears. The waterworks would be flowing, but that's part of the first couple of days when emotions are at their peak. So yes, be my sounding board is what I would expect a family member to give me that be my sounding board. And then once the emotions have kind of settled, then I would want them probably to brainstorm with me. Okay, what can I do differently? If I'm looking for a renewed sense of motivation, if I'm looking to set renewed goals, do things differently, and chart out the next couple of months for myself, then I would want someone who knows me in and out to brainstorm with me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Not at the time when it happened.
no.
At the time when it happened,
Because you're not
sympathy,
thinking
empathy.
clearly. You're not thinking
Correct.
clearly. You're just shrouded with emotions, and you're playing victim at that point. So you need to feel that loss. You need to feel bad. Let that loss sink in. That's important too, because you learn a lot through that loss. You learn a lot from defeat, from not achieving. You grow a lot as a person. Um, and but that's part of life. That's part of sport, and you learn more from your failures than you do from success. That's something I strongly believe in.
Correct.
Because when you succeed, your happiness lasts for a day, and then you're back to the drawing board. Whereas when you've actually lost is when you will spend a lot of time introspecting. You will evaluate a lot of things that you wouldn't have. You would have probably thrown a blind eye to if you had succeeded. So when you lose a match,
Correct.
You're actually learning a lot more.
There is something that you again said in passing. You need to learn how to dig these ones out for yourself. So, as an athlete, and we had Shamal on the podcast a few months ago, and he was talking about how, as athletes, whenever you win a tournament or win a match, you immediately go into, as you said, the drawing board and say, what did we do right? Correct? What can we learn from this?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
As non-athletes, as soon as we win something, we go, yay, balle, 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 balle. No concept of what we learned. Correct?
Yeah.
So there's one important thing to pick up from that. But what you said was beautiful. You said that we learn from the winnings in a particular way. The way I would say it is you learn what you did right, the logical stuff. But from the losings, you learn how the emotional parts and how you deal with that. Correct? I think the losings teach you what you're made of, your metal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
While the learnings from winnings are about, more probably technique oriented. Did I get that right?
Absolutely. And failure isn't always bad. I mean, we've grown up believing that failure means it's the end of the world, or you're not as good, and you develop all these mental cobwebs around failure. But failure is good because it teaches you a lot of things that you wouldn't have learned if you had succeeded. If luck had been on your side and you had won that match that you lost by that one point. You lost 21-19. If you had won 21-19 and you were in the next round, you wouldn't have critically analyzed everything as much as you would have since you lost.
Correct.
So there's a lot that failures teach you a lot. You grow a lot
Hmm.
as a person. You adult a lot. Um, so they are essential, and you learn to cherish the special victories and moments more when you've had your share of losses.
Love it. Failures are so important. And guys, today's podcast was about rock bottoms, right? Lots of failures lead you to rock bottom as well. But understanding that, did you learn something on the way down? Right? What did you learn from all that experience? And once you're down, going through the steps that Tanvi was telling us about, correct? Like, feel that victim, then feel the acceptance, then think about your motivation. How are you going to get out of it? Where are you going to see your future and where it's lying? How are you going to create that team around it? And what are the little baby steps that you're going to take to pull yourself out? And the whole objective of doing these podcasts is to make it okay to understand that these emotions are so strong when you're down at rock bottom, and feel them. Learn that everyone gets there. Even top athletes get there. And like Tanvi was saying, imagine dropping down all those rankings, and then it's been 2 years, Tanvi, and you're still
Yeah.
taking time to claw your way up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
takes that time to come back up, and she's giving herself that space and allowing her that space to saying that, all right, things are not the same, but that doesn't mean they always have to be like this. Correct? And why does it take 2 years for you to get back to that position? So like, what would have changed in you through this through the ACL tear and the operations and stuff? Like, has speed gone? Has something else happened? What changed?
So I think the injury was one of the best things that could have happened to me.
High
Um,
luck. Okay, we need a clap for that. All
so
right.
like I said, failure and the injury and the lowest point, the something that you would probably call the rock bottom in my badminton career, taught me so much because
Hmm.
from purely a technical perspective, I had to restructure a lot of things about my footwork. Um, my footwork was a particular way, and I had to to avoid straining the knee and to make sure that I was more efficient when I made a comeback. I had to make certain biomechanical changes in the way I was lunging, things that I had done for years. I had to learn them from. It was like learning badminton in a different way again at
Hmm.
25. So
Right.
it was
And you
baby.
turned pro in 15 at 15.
Yeah,
So that's like
10
10
years
years
of
of. Hmm.
reinforcement. Yes.
Correct.
But the way I trained, my approach became a lot more qualitative. I like I said in the previous episode, I still am a firm believer in putting in the hard hours, the long hours, but I started looking for a lot more quality in every session. So
Hmm.
that was a switch that came in for sure, because I was working shorter durations, so I had to be most productive in that time that I was allowed on court. Um,
Right.
I made technical changes in my grip, in my footwork, in the basics of the sport. But I'm actually in my SNC routine. I made a lot of changes in the way I was training. It used to be a lot of strength, pure strength work, and now it became a lot more explosive. It became high intensity interval training. A lot of those aspects came in, and it's turned my game around. So I used to be a very defensive kind of player, running, grind, not letting a shuttle touchdown on my side, getting everything back. That was my style. A lot of lateral movement on the court. And
Right.
now it's become a lot more explosive. I am vertically, jumping a lot more, attacking a lot more. So it's a more proactive style. So it's opened
Hmm.
up a whole new dimension to my game, and I'm really excited.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm really excited to take this dimension onto court in the coming months.
Beautiful. You don't have to come back to the same person you were. Change, grow, be a new version of you.
Be a
Love
new
it.
version. Be a new you.
New you.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay, Tanvi, how can people get in touch with you? If they have questions, how can they reach out to you? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, so guys, please do tune in to our brand new podcast in collaboration with IVM. It's called The Millennial Athlete. Me and my teammate Shlok Ramchandran will be talking about all things a millennial athlete goes through, the Indian sporting scenario, and how we feel so strongly about why India isn't yet a sporting nation despite there being no dearth of talent. We have a lot of interesting things lined up for you guys, so do tune in. We launch on the 19th of October on the IVM podcast. The podcast will be available on the IVM podcast network or wherever else you listen to your podcasts. If you want to reach out to me, I am at Tanvi Lad 93 on Instagram and Twitter, and Shlok is at Shlok 95 on Instagram and Twitter. So do write to us, and we will try to incorporate everything in our episodes.
Superb. Thank you so much, Tanvi, for joining us on the Habit Coach podcast. It's been a blast. Guys, if you haven't heard the first episode, please go do check it out. And best of luck for your podcast.
Thank you, Ashdin. It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And I whenever I'm low on motivation, I do tune into the Habit Coach podcast. I'm a creature of habit, and I absolutely love Ashdin and his little productivity tips that he keeps putting out from time to time. So thank you. Keep up with the content.
Thank you. I will. See you guys. Thank you.
See you.
If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, I am Ashdin Doc on Twitter and Instagram. You can find lots more information on my website, awesome180.com. or check out different content on my YouTube channel called AWESOME180. That's Awesome 180.
I hope you enjoyed that show. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Intel, for supporting us. So Justine Royal came on Storytellers and Storytellers this week with Vineet. It was a really interesting conversation. Do definitely check that out. Hamsini Hariharan is back on the Pragati podcast after an extended absence. Hamsini was one of the original hosts along with Pravan, but she was unable to continue. But we're glad to have her back. She's talking about her experiences since she left. She's been studying in China. Definitely check that out. You'll enjoy that. Abhijit Ganguly was on Cyrus Says a couple of weeks ago, and he had such a great time, and we were so happy to have him on that we asked him to join us for Cock and Bull, and he was on this week. Do check that out. And lastly, I'd like to mention our Tamil show. We've been doing a show called Kadai Podcast Ponniyin Selvan, hosted by Kavita Jiva. She has been phenomenal. She's rewritten the stories in a way which really, they speak to a modern audience. But Ponniyin Selvan is over, and she started a new story, though. The new story that she started is Sivakamiyan Sabatham. I'm sure I mangled that pronunciation, and I'm sure you'll love it if you're a Tamil speaker. Do definitely check it out. And with that, I hope to see you again next week.
Sachin Tendulkar, Virat Kohli, Don Bradman, and now Cyrus Brocha. Okay, probably not in the right company. I mean, Don Bradman is Australian. But it's called Cyrus Says, a wonderful show about everything. Find the show on the IVM Podcast app, ivmpodcast.com, or wherever you listen to podcasts.